Sounds good.
So, welcome back to M.a.N podcast. My name is Thomas, the host, whatever you want to call me. We have a very special guest on today. Someone that I've now known for quite a while from a distance. Your desk, I guess, is about that far. Speaking to you when I come through to Dundee. It's Fraser here. I'm really excited to delve in, get to know him a bit better, and find out a little bit about everything that goes on in his life. We are going to talk about, well, we'll see where the conversation goes. So Fraser, if you'd like to just tell us just a little bit about yourself, and then we'll just go from there.
Sounds good. Thanks, Tom. I'm Fraser. I'm 27, originally from just across the bridge from Dundee in Newport. I own a small coffee shop on the Perth Road in Dundee called EH9 Espresso. We're just coming up to 2 years in June, and it's been just pretty mental since we opened. It's the first proper business that I've run, so it's been a mad learning experience, and yeah, just loving every moment of it, really.
So he's downplaying that a lot, and I'll tell you what, I thought it was longer than 2 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know why I had it in my head. It was a lot.
Oh, do you know what, mate? Like, it's easy to fall into cliches with it, and I sort of have to stop myself when I'm talking about it, because it feels like we've been there for a lifetime, and it like, especially around the sort of community stuff that we've built up, advocacy of customers, all that sort of stuff. But then on the other side, like, I feel like I blinked, and I looked at a photo of myself the other day from when we were first opening. I was a baby. I was a proper baby. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but I'm almost able to grow a mustache now, which is a big achievement for me.
There we go.
That marks the time passing.
Hey, I'm 35 and I can't grow one. But hey, so right, let's go into this then. So Fraser owns EH9 Espresso, and if you've not guessed, it's a coffee shop. It is a fantastic coffee shop. Is in the scene, is it called a specialty coffee shop?
Yeah, that's how we describe ourselves, and to be like really particular, I guess you would describe us as a coffee bar. That's mainly just to manage people's expectations in terms of the proposition that we have on the Perth Road. So from starting out, I'm just going to dive right into the business plan. Let's go. From starting out, it was my objective to keep things as simple as possible. Coffee is my passion. It's definitely a passion project, and we basically wanted to set it up so it was like a picnic, so we could take as much time as we can crafting beautiful, delicate, nuanced coffee, and the rest is fairly simple. So it's cold cakes, cold food, but good vibes, hopefully.
Yeah, it's class. So right, Fraser, I do this with everybody that I get on. Okay, I looked back on your Instagram, like right back to the start.
All right.
Where did the rugby transition to coffee?
Oh, crazy.
Well, talk us a little bit about that. Like, talk us about Newport. What did you do across there? Where else have you lived?
Yeah, cool. There's a guy at the pub over the road waving at me. Just sat in the window of the shop. So previous life is quite rugby centric. So played rugby throughout my whole life. Started as soon as I was able to get on the pitch at 5. I've got a twin brother, and we used to both play flanker, so opposite sides of the scrum, just to mess with people. And it was very much central to my personality. Been big into team sports throughout my whole life. And actually, when I left uni, I went into a career in sport. So I did a modern apprenticeship with Scottish Rugby. Was out coaching every day in schools, setting up pathway programs, and actually went to uni to study sports under the guise that I was going to push on with this sort of rugby career. And I had it in my head, and I said it to all my mates as well. I wanted to be the next Vern Cotter. I wanted to run the Scotland rugby team. And somewhere along the lines, coffee came into my life and has utterly distracted me. It's like that cliche of, football coming into people's lives so they drop out of another sport and all that sort of stuff. My new sport is making coffee, which isn't as good for the gut, but it'll be fine.
Yeah. So what? So like you said there, you wanted to jump into like the business plan a bit. We'll go back to that. And what was like the idea then? Like what came from like your enjoyment in coffee to like, right, I want to have my own place.
Mm. To be honest, like I guess I've kind of known that I've wanted to run a business for a long time. You know, that cliche of the kid at the back of the bus selling cans of juice. That was kind of me. You know, I'd go to the wholesaler, buy 15 cans of Iron Brew and sell them for 150 each, and think, all right, I've made some money there. The next stage of that was like, so in the common room at school, I would, well, it was called, there was the canteen. It wasn't serving food, but it was basically where the 6 years were allowed to go. I started like cutting folks' hair, and it would be, I called it canteen cuts. And like part of that was like, right, I've got to pay the cleaners to not tell on me because they're scooping up hair after I've done this cut. So I'd leave £2 on the table for the cleaners, and they'd turn a blind eye to me cutting hair in the evenings, charge a fiver to the client, and then thus making £3 profit. That's kind of just, I don't know where that's come from, but it seems to be built into my personality. So at uni, I had a crack at running a couple of businesses, but it was always a kind of necessity that I had a part-time job to fund me through uni. Anyone that's done a modern apprenticeship will know. I'm kind of jumping between here because it's hard to find out how I got from the modern apprenticeship to the getting into uni. But anyone that's done a modern apprenticeship will know that you do not have savings after doing a modern apprenticeship. So me going to Edinburgh Uni and moving to the capital city, I basically had to graft my way through uni. So I was working sort of 30 hours a week, going from job to job and not really finding the thing that landed. And prior to getting into coffee, I was in retail, which was just, for me personally, I did not enjoy. And that's basically what took me to coffee. My mum sort of nudged me in the direction of getting into a coffee shop. And from that point, it was the main thing that I fell in love with was this sort of, and what we're doing exactly now, just finding out about people, chatting away. You just get to do that for 8 hours a day, sometimes 10, and now 15 for me. You know, you're chatting away to people and you're building connections, and it's just so powerful. So that's moved me into coffee. I knew I wanted to run a business, but I didn't know where and how it would look. And I was sort of just like going from coffee shop to coffee shop working, and eventually sort of went, oh, do you know what? I need to sort of buckle down here, and I need to make some decent money. I'm going to go away, and I'm going to go back to rugby. So I started a job at Murrayfield in sales. I thought, all right, I can talk to people, I'll be able to do sales, and that's kind of entrepreneurial. And absolutely loved it. I was there for 2 years selling hospitality packages to big businesses, you know, doing the cold calling game, all that sort of stuff. But it was lockdown that really gave me the kick up the arse in terms of reflecting on what do you want to do? What do you like? What is it about running your own business that you really, really want to reach out and do? And I guess it helped that I was on furlough, so had some income coming, so I could sit and do a business plan. So more specifically about Dundee, I had a look at it and I thought, do you know what? Like, I'm here, I live out in the sticks, I live out in the countryside, and I would cycle for 40 minutes just when lockdown allowed to come in and get a coffee. And more often than not, I would find myself sort of like squeezing into the spot that I felt like I needed to buy brunch as well. And it was bad for my wallet, it was bad for my gut, everything. And that was kind of like the way that the Dundee coffee scene looked at the time. And that's not to, you know, berate anybody in the coffee scene at the moment. There's really good coffee about the city. But for me, it was about creating a space that was accessible for learning about coffee, sitting, chilling, reading a book, and not feeling like you need to sit down and have a meal. And I just sort of, my gut was just telling me, right, this is the right moment for you. People are going to be keen to get out and about and drink some coffee. You don't have any kids, you don't have a dog, and you live with your mum. Go for it. Just take a punt. And I'm so glad I did. It's just, yeah, it's been amazing.
So from that point, what was like, can you tell us a bit about EH9? Because is that, or is that not a postcode in Edinburgh?
It is, yeah. So I'm going to caveat first and say that I'm not a cowboy, but this sounds like a bit of a cowboy story. So planning my business was almost like a 2-year process where basically I wanted to make a splash in Dundee, and I thought the best way to do that was to get a bit of authenticity to my opinion about coffee. So I started a coffee blog, and at the time I was living in Edinburgh, and the EH9 was where I was living. So it was EH9 Espresso was me cutting about cafes, sitting down and doing quick reviews, mainly just doing research for myself, but sharing that online. And I always had it in my head that if I could get sort of like 1,500 followers, it was quite like a modest goal. With 1,500 followers, then I knew that I would have at least something to substantiate my claim that I would be good at running a coffee shop and sharing my opinion about what coffee people should buy and brew at home and all that sort of stuff. But as that started to gain a bit of traction, I realized that actually I had an opportunity to create a bit of like a buzz about the project that I was working on. So prior to opening the shop, I actually archived every single post on the Instagram page, and except for one, and it just said Dundee's newest coffee shop coming soon. It didn't say, and it was EH9 Espresso, and essentially I didn't say I had another shop, but it was meant to look like I had a shop in Edinburgh so that people trusted me. I was so aware that I've got a baby face, I'm a young guy. People are like, who's this guy coming in here telling us what to do? So I just sort of didn't correct anybody and wanted them to think that there was this big company coming to Dundee and they should be super excited about it. And it kind of worked because there was 1,500 followers there, no posts. There was a bit of a buzz about it. And actually, overnight, the page went right up to 3,000 followers just by a poster in the window of the shop that we were working in behind the scenes, and that one post. And I guess luckily from that point, we've just had people sort of queuing out the door since. So yeah, it's been good. But you know, I dropped the story after about, I don't know, 6 weeks. People kept on saying, "Oh, you've got another shot. You've got another shot." And eventually, I came clean and thought, "Do you know what? I'm just going to tell them." And I just said, "Nah." I just wanted people to think I knew what I was doing, so I called it after an Edinburgh coffee shop or whatever.
That is a brilliant story. You're almost like a.
But to be fair, I guess I'm doing myself a disservice as well because, like part of the concept and part of the EH9 name is, do you know? I don't know if it's all right to name another business on this, but screw it, I'll do it anyway. So I look at places like in St Andrews, you've got Little Italy, that is a little Italian restaurant that takes its theme from, right, we're going to try and benchmark Italian food here. We want it to be an authentic Italian experience. And for me, I sort of was looking internally and thinking, well, what are you trying to do here? And it was about me sort of bringing my experiences of coffee in Edinburgh whilst I was a student and whilst I was working, and trying to bring a new thing to the city. And I thought, well, tell people what you're trying to do. I'm trying to benchmark the experience I've had in the EH9. So treat this as like a Little Italy restaurant. It's a Little Edinburgh coffee scene. That's kind of what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. Do you know what? If anybody hasn't been to EH9, you should definitely visit, because it's not only do you do like unbelievable coffee, you've got lovely bagels, you've got a great coffee selection for beans. It's a great environment. Great. There's always a nice buzz. But I think one of my personal favorite things, and I have fucking no clue how you've done this. You have created a culture that if you were to put like individuals or like even like social and economic classes, it is like end to end on every spectrum of everything that you could, I don't want to use the word like judge or categorize humans, will say. When you go in there, there is so many interesting people every time.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? They're so good.
How is there any sort of blueprint structure that you've created to have that happen, or?
I guess so. There's a few factors there. Some of them are out with our control, but it would be a disservice to our team. It's not just me in the shop on a daily basis, but a disservice to our team to say it's purely by accident. I mean, so like in the beginning, we did a lot of training around the way we communicate with people to help them to relax. I guess I sort of like drew a little bit on like sales training from that. So things like when you walk through the door, You know, it's not just like, "Hi guys, how you doing? Are you sitting in or taking away?" It's more like, "All right, man, how you doing?" Like, as in, I know you. I know you. You should be comfortable in this space for people we've never met.
Yeah.
Or like just doing little things like walking past the table and putting your hand on it and just going before you speak to them means people go, right, I'm going to relax. And it's these tiny little nuances in service that I'm sort of like really passionate about creating environments through that. Um, but I guess culturally as well, it's more about like we put on a big emphasis around being sort of sensitive to, the intersectionalities of the area that we're in. So we're close to an art school, we're opposite a pub, we're actually opposite the doors of the police station. So if people roll out on a Sunday morning having been in the cells, they might come over for a coffee. And that's kind of like the way that we've said to treat everyone. It's like just be open, just be kind, and create human connections. And that's, for me, in my head, that creates like a really fulfilling place to work as well as come in and drink coffee. But as I say in the start, like I think you can create an environment, and I count myself really lucky that this has happened. But you can create sort of like aesthetically an environment that you think will attract certain people, and you can act in a certain way. But to a certain extent, like cultures and communities, they sort of build themselves, or so I've found. And it's like, I think, to be honest, like we have less of an input in that now than we've ever had in terms of the community because it's self-led now, and it's like we've just created a space, like we've put a plant pot there and put a seed in, not to use like a corny sort of business metaphor, but it's growing and it's flourishing and it's perpetuating, and now we're propagating plants from it, and it's like it leads itself and it makes us look really good. I have people approaching me saying, "I've done this artwork, can I put it on your wall?" Or, "I've got this craft skill, can I hold a craft night in your cafe?" I'm not doing anything. I'm
Yeah.
going, "Yeah, okay, yeah. Have you thought about that?" Nah, yeah. And our output for the community is so high because we're just feeding off the people around us now. Yeah, and that's so fulfilling. And actually, like to be honest, like you probably can hear it in my throat. Like that's the bit that gets me out of bed in the morning. I'm so passionate about creating this space for people to feel comfortable, to push on, to be a creative, to be passionate about whatever they're passionate about. Um, and it almost makes me cry thinking about it.
Yeah. Mate,
'Cause I count
honestly,
myself really lucky.
you should be mega proud as well. Not just feel like you're lucky. You should be proud because, like, even just sitting talking to you. Like, I've had one chance. I got one chance. Like every time I come in to EH9, it's busy every single time. You're always racing around. You always have time to talk. You always have time to ask things. But there was one time we did get a chance to sit down, and we kind of like you were up to your eyeballs in work. I actually think you were a little bit stressed as well. But that's like the only other time I've ever had a chance to like speak to you about some stuff. So hearing this from you is like it's like wonderful because I am someone that loves coming to your place. So it's like, and again,
Thank you.
I knew you were a nice guy, but like hearing all this stuff and hearing the passion, hearing the drive, like it's almost inspiring me as well with my own business. Um, and I'm gonna say it again. Like as soon as I listed off all the things that I think are amazing about the place, I think you've done on purpose. And I think when you have such as good a product as you, this is just what I was thinking when I was listening to you. When you have as good a product as you have, people will know. It don't matter where they come from. It doesn't matter what their walk of life is. So I guess there is like a testament to like how good the coffee is, how good the service is, how good the vibe is, how good all that stuff is that you've created. And I genuinely, I do honestly. If you are listening and you've not been to EH9, you should definitely go. And I'm not affiliated, and I'm not anything. I just go because it is brilliant. But Fraser, let's talk about like
Thank you.
the
Thank you.
because I can remember coming through, and it wasn't long after you'd opened. I thought it was way longer than 2 years ago, right? But
Yeah, yeah.
what was like from the day the door opened? What was the team?
Hmm.
What was like the day to day? What was the
Yeah,
layout of the place? And then how has that evolved?
yeah, cool. So, uh, well, it's useful to start from where I thought it would look like. So I genuinely, up until 2 months before the doors opened, I thought I was going to do it on my own, which is quite a good illustration of how you approach your first business, isn't it?
Yeah,
You think you can do everything yourself, and the original idea was that I would have a small shop that barely had any seats, and I would be focused on takeaway, and it would be little old Fraz brewing behind his machine. Uh, and we stumbled upon this space that was much bigger, and I sort of took a punt on it and thought, right, I'm going to need to get some people to help me with this. I'll put a job advert out. And again, I don't talk about luck. I talk about like, and you'll probably have the same mindset about like preparation, meeting opportunity. I was pretty sure on the type of people I wanted to hire because I'd thought about it. I don't sleep at night. I think about it. And I was really lucky that two members of the team had applied, Jen and Fran, and they were, and still are, like in the fabric of the place. Like they were outstanding, both novice baristas. Jen had no experience, but she came on board and picked it up rapid fast. But she was just committed to that whole ethos of making people feel comfortable, making connections with people, genuinely listening when people were talking, which is a skill in itself. And Fran was the same. Fran came in with a bit more experience, and she actually taught me a lot of what I know in terms of the operational side of things. She would be in my ear and saying, like, you need to rotate that stock, you need to be signing this form, all that sort of stuff. And I genuinely wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. They both stayed for a year. Fran, a year and a half. She's just moved over to New Zealand. And genuinely gutted to see them go. But around them has grown this team, which at one point was up at 15 people. And that, you still have to pinch me with that. That's mental. That's crazy. I think at the moment we've got 8 employees, and they're all sort of varying. They've either got second jobs or it's their full-time career, or they work at other hospitality spaces and they work here one day a week. And it's just that team is just a great culture. It's a really nice place to work. Everyone gets along, and it sounds like I'm sugarcoating things. And I genuinely, I'll be honest, I wouldn't do that. I don't think it's healthy to sugarcoat things, but we are just really lucky that the place it attracts the right kind of people. And actually, if people don't fit the culture, and this does lean back to what you would read about culture in terms of, it gets to a certain extent where their culture has a strength, right? And if somebody comes in and they don't match the culture, they will feel inclined to leave, and that's how it preserves itself. And that's kind of in my head where I feel the culture of this place is at the moment, in terms of people come in, they work hard, they're very human, and if it's not right for them, then they'll move on, and the good people stay. One of our guys, Lewis, who's now head barista, it's the same as him. I actually remember him first walking in as a customer. It's quite funny. So before we started, I'm just going off on a massive tangent, but
no,
I
that's
presume
fine.
this will be useful in the end. But yeah, Lewis came in. I'd done a bit of recon on Instagram before, and it was as simple as just searching like coffee influencers Dundee on not on TikTok, on Instagram. There are a few accounts. It's not a big pool of people who are down that route, and one of them was Lewis. And I'd totally rinsed his page, looked at every single post he'd done, looked at what sort of coffee he liked and stuff like that, in anticipation of him coming in, which sounds so creepy. But he walked through the door, I think maybe a week after we opened, and I went, "You're Lewis, aren't you?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I went, "Oh, don't you like natural coffees? Yeah, let's get you that." Boom, sit down. And from that point, you saw his eyes light up, and I was like, "This is a space for Lewis." So I was buzzing when he wanted to come on board. He was the third member of the team to join, and from being a person who brews coffee at home and is really passionate about it, to being a highly capable head barista in the space of what is essentially a year and a half is astonishing. I've been doing it for 8 years, and he's better than me now. And he wants to compete in competitions. He helps me by surveying the world of coffee and buying in the best ones he can find. That's his job. He buys for the retail shelf and stuff like that. Actually, I'm conscious now that he'll probably listen to this, and he's maybe going to get a massive ego and leave me.
You'll be asked for pay rise or more holidays, or
maybe I should stop. But yeah, I guess the long and short of that is that I am really lucky that I'm surrounded by really passionate people. We give them the tools that they want to succeed, and the rest sort of does itself. and that's really cool.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's say there's like someone's listening just now, and they're wanting to do something similar. Maybe they don't want to open a coffee shop, but they want to start a business from just a business plan. Would you be able to talk us through the steps that you had to take from what you've done with the business plan, how you found a place, filled it?
Yeah, yeah,
Are you able to?
yeah, totally. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I had a slightly unique experience in that I wasn't working at the time. I was completely free to do the research I needed to do. But I guess that's the important word, research. Like, I'm definitely one for, people have different approaches to things. Some people dive in with 2 feet. Some people sit and mull it over until it's too late. And I'm definitely one that's closer on to the mulling it over stage. I like to research things. I like to make sure I'm doing my due diligence. And I think that I would suggest that for anyone running a small business. But for me, the researching side of your business plan isn't sitting on Google or reading articles and stuff like that. It's getting out and speaking to people in the industry who are working. I was that annoying guy who would come and hang off the edge of a bar or a cafe and ask the owner every single question I could think of and take a pen and paper and write it down. And actually, like, it's funny. So we were just at Glasgow Coffee Festival this weekend, and we're at this after party, and I'm standing having a pint with this guy, and it suddenly just dawned on me. I was like, 3 or 4 years ago, you were my hero. And that's because, like, I was so passionate about learning about the area that I was going to go into that these people were heroes to me. It was quite a nice, like, roundabout moment. But to take it back to your question, I guess that's the other thing. It's like you've got to be kind of ruthless about knowing your space. I don't really buy into the whole wing it style of running a business. I think that to a certain extent you will have success, but if you want to build a really, really successful business, you need to know things like what kind of coffee cups are the best kind of coffee cups to use. And you have to go out and drink out of the coffee cups and then make your own opinion up about that. And what does that actually mean when you get an extra hot coffee versus one that's done at the right temperature and all that sort of stuff.
Do you want to talk about those things?
Nah, because it makes me sound like a snob.
No, I bet it doesn't.
But I guess I'll try and stay. I'll try and stay on topic with your question, because I've not actually told you about how I actually did it in process. So I sat down, I did all that. I spent about a year doing my research and bouncing into coffee shops and stuff like that, and had a pretty good idea of what I wanted EH9 to look like. Nothing like it actually turned out to look like, just a full disclosure. But at that point I thought, right, I'm ready. I'm going to need some money. I don't have any money. I had 40 quid in my bank account when I opened EH9. So I had to go to a bank and get a loan, essentially. So I actually think I posted on like a Facebook forum. It's like small businesses in Scotland. And I posted and I said, where do you get money? And someone sent me a link to the British Business Bank's startup scheme. So you can borrow anything between £25,000 and £50,000. And here's the resources you need to get your business plan ready. I thought, Bob's your uncle, there's a template. I don't have to do a business plan anymore. I'll just fill in the boxes. And it was amazing. And I actually think that resource is still online. So if you are thinking about opening a business, make it easy for yourself. Go and pretend you're applying to a bank, even if you don't need the money, because they've got the resources there to do a business plan. And these guys have probably thought about most of the things you need to think about, because they're going to give you their cash. So they want you to make sure you're going to do it well. So I spent about 3-4 months writing a business plan to make sure that I was going to get the loan. And eventually it did come back, and we got the cash. I don't know if it's useful to say how much I borrowed, but I'll maybe skim over it just now. But if anyone wants to know, reach out to me, because I had no idea how much it costs to start up a coffee shop. So just ping me a message and I'll
just talk about it, man. Talk about it. How much you got, how much you were expecting to get, what you thought. Just talk it through. Just talk it through if you can, if you feel you can.
Yeah, screw it. So yeah, no, totally. I don't mind sharing these things. So as I say, I didn't have any personal money. I borrowed £25,000, and that was just about enough to get everything except for tables and chairs and a sink and a fridge and everything else in between. So I had to, um, it's mental how much things cost, and it's something that really shocked me as a young business owner. Like even little things, like I bought 8 tables that didn't have legs on them, and I thought, right, well, I'll just put legs on it, won't I? And then it looked on IKEA, and it's 50 quid a leg, and I got 8 tables. You think, flipping heck, that's everything I budgeted for buying cups gone. So where am I going to get my cups? And it was a bit of a game of that. And to be honest, it was like fairly stressful making sure it gets on the line. And I wish I'd done a wee bit more research on that before I signed my lease, because I was on basically a ticking. On this date, you're going to start paying rent, and on this date, you're going to run out of money. So you need to start bringing in money on this date, otherwise you're going to be on a bad start. In hindsight, that's kind of part of the game, and it's like it is a game of chess. You're balancing resources, and we still do it to the day. Not obviously not on as fine a knife blade as that, but we're going, right. When can we spend this money? When are we going to bring this in? At what time of the month do we buy this resource? How quickly will that sell? And all that sort of stuff. So, it's a bit of a game of chess, as I say. So yeah, money came in. Was ready to look at retail units, and actually spent quite some time looking around Dundee. Had quite a good idea of what I wanted the space to look like and where I wanted it to be. If it's a service-based job that this hypothetical person is thinking about opening, I would highly recommend considering capacity versus fixed costs. And that's a sort of like, I guess that's quite a nerdy sort of economic way of looking at things, but I think that is the general rule of a business that's going to succeed versus not succeed, is how much money can you make and how much are you going to have to pay for it. And sometimes in Dundee, that can actually be quite a hard matrix to succeed in. In coffee, the spaces are either really small, so it's really hard to fit enough people in to make enough money, or they're massive and really expensive and will just burn resources. So, yeah, I don't know where I got that information from. I probably just made it up, but I think it's all right. I think that's right.
I was going to say, like, how would you be able to kind of calculate that with like a takeaway places like option as well?
I guess you could do something as simple as sitting outside with a clicker and click how many people are passing by. And I won't name the coffee shop. I actually did it with 2 or 3, but I went and sat outside coffee shops for an entire day and sat and counted how many people went in and out, so that I could do a cash flow based on, right, this shop sells what I think is this many coffees a day, and this shop sells this many, and I think I'll make that much money from that. I'm so aware that not everyone has that, A, the need for that sort of attention to detail, and B, the time to do that. A lot of people are juggling kids and families and a job and all that sort of stuff, but you can gauge a rough idea of how many people are in an area and what other sort of places are around about, and if they're doing well, these general sign of things. But yeah, so I actually found a place in the Westport in Dundee. So if anyone doesn't know that, who's listening, that's sort of opposite the first year university halls. It's on your way up to the dental school, which has thousands of students. It seemed to me at face value to be the perfect spot for my business. I walked in, I saw this unit. I was quite an early viewer as well. I thought I had a good chance of getting it, and I fell in love with it, which was number one mistake. I was imagining EH9 going into that space. I was telling people I was going to be sitting in that place because I'd put my application in to get the lease for that. And the agent phoned me and said, another business is coming and they've given a higher offer. They've got a couple of years trade, so they're a safer bet for the landlord. So the landlord's going to pass up on your offer. And I was crushed, genuinely was crushed, and was driving up the Perth Road in the rain, crying, not ashamed to say it, crying, looking out the window, like a pathetic fallacy, something out of a film. And I saw 2 guys putting up the sign for the shop that I'm in now. And again, like proper like a film, screeched on the brakes, jumped out, said, are you guys just putting that up or are you taking that down? And they said, nah, it's just gone on the market today. And I phoned up, got a viewing that afternoon, and got the wheels in motion straight away, and was the only applicant for the space before I'd managed to get it over the line. So I guess that's quite a romantic story, that it won't happen like that for everyone, but genuinely, again, it gives me goosebumps thinking about that because it's like that's fucking lucky, isn't it? Landed on probably the ideal space in the ideal location for the right price at the right size. Um, and that the rest is history. The rest I just got my head down, started stripping out the shop, started asking my twin brother to teach me how to put up a shelf, and then open the doors and hope for the best, you know?
Yeah, totally. This maybe sounds, and like I know there's nothing really to support this, but have you ever felt that like when you go all in on something, like you have with this project, that things actually do start to align? Like there's things in the world that start happening, and it does. I know this sounds total hippie, and we maybe won't be able to like make much conversation from it, but it's happened to me a few times, and it sounds like that. Like
Yeah.
it's just almost
No,
perfect.
totally. I totally believe in manifestation. Uh, and it, like, I check myself because I'm not really into that sort of like, I don't know if you've even described it as holistic, but like that sort of like airy fairy gratitude and all that sort of stuff is something that previous rugby frads would go, what are you talking about, man? But somehow I feel that now gratitude is so important. I wake up every day and I'm thankful for what I'm doing. Um, but the manifestation side of things is like mega important. And you wake up and you spell your success out to the universe and things will come your way. And that, like, as I say, the right people have come along, the right spaces come along, it was the right moment, all that sort of stuff. These are largely out with my control. Um, and things like that are still happening because we're still approaching it in the same way. Um, we used to have this training technique that we would do with our staff as well, where um, part of like the ethos of our service standard, it sounds really corporate to say service standard, but the standards that we expect from our guys and that we try and promote is that people will leave feeling happy. It's as simple as that. And one of the ways that we try and do that in practice is by flipping things in a positive way. For example, someone comes in and they go, yeah, I need a coffee, the weather's a bit shit. And something as simple as, yeah, but it's sunny in here, easy, one sentence, you flip the conversation, it's now positive. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
it's really easy to do that, and I'm so aware that there is such thing as like toxic positivity in terms of people have real issues. We all have real issues. You can't just sugarcoat it by saying, "Oh, it's sunny in here." But on a daily basis, if you're making jokes with people, being positive, that sort of radiance does have a trickle on effect, and that's like one of our main motivations in the community that we're in.
so like Fraser, speaking to you, right? I always knew you were intelligent. Like I could tell talking to you. Did you do quite well in school?
Um, I guess it is yes and no. Academically, probably not. I was captain of the rugby team, was house captain or head boy, whatever you want to call it, in my last year of school. So I guess if you looked at it from a blind eye, then yeah, I did do well at school and was popular, um, largely popular, obviously. A lot of people didn't like me at the same time. Um, but academically, I kind of struggled. I went through a wee bit of a turbulent patch in my early teens and um, kind of disassociated with school, and that put me on a back foot when I went into my hires. Um, and I hadn't, to be honest, I just hadn't learned how to learn. I don't know if that sounds stupid to you, but you may well be able to relate in terms of learning, like even something as simple as learning to read. Like I could read but not read, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and that was basically my sixth year at school where I just had this sort of wake up moment of like, if you don't get your foot down and do some real learning here, you're gonna shaft yourself. Um, and that was quite a transformative year for me. So I went into that with, I think I had two hires and the rest were like intermediate twos, and they were all sort of mid range, nothing
yeah.
special. Um, and I worked really hard in my last year of school and ended up coming out with three A's, which was enough to get me into the modern apprenticeship and then into Edinburgh Uni. And from there, I just took this approach of like, maybe not as, I don't believe in people being naturally smart, but you need to find your way that you learn and how to digest information that works for you. And the best way to do that is just by working hard, working flat out. I've got that sort of personality that if you dial in, then you're gonna do well. And it was at uni I started to realize that I did actually have the capacity to learn if I was self-led, and I would do reading and then record myself speaking and listen to it when I was on the treadmill, all that sort of stuff that were just not techniques that you learned when you're at school. So I ended up coming out of Edinburgh with a first class in my subject, and yeah, that was a big moment, and it was like a big moment that reminded me that I was able to apply myself. Yeah.
It's funny, I don't want to make this about me, but I was just talking to someone about that the other day, saying I didn't learn how to learn, but I thought I had a way to learn that didn't work, and I just wasn't intelligent. Like, I can remember just thinking like, oh, well, I'm just not smart.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
But
yeah.
it's because I didn't know how to learn. Like, I would cram everything like the night before.
And
I was told not to do that, but I was just trying.
How did you learn how to learn? What was it that, like...
The last day of uni, when I posted my dissertation through the letterbox, I was like, shit, I kind of get it now. I kind of get it now.
Class, good timing. Yeah.
What I was always trying to solve the problem as opposed to just like understand it. Does that make sense? So
yeah,
like I was always trying to create something new. I was trying to reinvent the wheel. I was with everything. Like I've done it with everything, with maths, everything, and it just doesn't work like that. Whereas if you just almost regurgitate what you've read or you've learnt, you then know it.
Totally.
And I know that maybe sounds stupid to a lot of people, but that's...
No, definitely. I think, so I can reflect on my coaching background, and I guess I obviously I've mentioned my twin brother a few times. He's a personal trainer in a similar sort of line of work to you. And he sort of waxes lyrical about the fact that when you're coaching and you're relaying information, you're just becoming infinitely wiser as you do it. And it's like, I guess that happens in coffee as well. When we're giving people lessons and talking through the coffee that we're brewing, we're just soaking up this information, passing it on, soaking it up, reflecting, passing it on. And that's like a natural loop. I think raw learning appeals to certain people, and it sounds like it appeals to you as well. Like real life stuff, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
So the reason I actually brought this all up though, Fraser, and this is a long, probably pretty long-winded question, is like where do you think? Because you've mentioned it as well. You said you've got an attention to detail, and I've got a man that means the absolute world to me, and he is like unbelievable businessman. And one of the first questions I asked him, I was like, what do you think people get wrong when they start a business? And he was like, they don't have attention to detail. Where did you get that from?
Mm-hmm.
Where did that attention to detail that you have come from?
It's quite funny. It's almost like you've sort of been reading my journal. It's like, so like, I'll set the scene a wee bit. So running a business is high pressure, and it's not for the faint-hearted. So as part of my commitment to running a business, I sort of vowed when I started that, you know, you're learning the trade, you're learning about running a business, but you need to learn about yourself, and you'll never survive. To be honest, I sort of burnt myself out of uni. I had definitely got a type A personality. For anyone that doesn't know what that means, just to summarize it really quickly, it means that you're just a perfectionist essentially. And I had severe burnout when I finished uni because of that. And I'm so focused on not becoming like that now that I reflect quite a lot, which has led me to realize my motivations for doing certain things and why I act the way I act, which is with high attention to detail. And to be honest, it probably spans from a wee bit of fear of failure, in terms of I do have like a lingering anxiety on days that this isn't good enough and this won't do well. And to be honest, at the moment it's healthy and it's being productive, and I guess I promote that idea that a level of anxiety can be a productive thing as well as a negative thing. but yeah, I don't want to fail, so I want to make sure I do my best to stop that from happening. Um, the other side of that is like I am genuinely just like curious. I guess curious is a word. I'm fascinated by how things work, like you saying, and why certain things are successful. So, like any business I go into nowadays, I'll doesn't matter if it's coffee, if it's a mechanics, if it's whatever. It's almost like right, let's do an analysis here. Let's look at it, and I can't switch off because I'm like, that's good, that's bad, that's good, that's bad, that could be better. And it's like I don't know where that comes from. I think that's a natural thing. I think that's just yeah, preservation of trying not to fail.
Have you had many mentors or
Do
role
you get that
models?
as well?
Oh, it's horrendous.
Um, sorry, I talked over you there. What was the question?
What I'll come back to. I'll come back to it. But yeah, I running my own business. I do, and the curiosity thing. It's bizarre. Like I just read about that today. Like about how like
Yeah,
you can see there page is marked on curiosity. I don't know
yeah,
if you can
class.
see it.
Yeah,
Like a lot of the stuff
yeah,
that
I
you're
can't see
saying, and this
that.
is like what's blowing me away is right. So I'm not, or maybe I shouldn't say this because I do say it, and I guess if you do repeatedly say things, you start to believe it. But for me, I didn't learn a lot. I got good at things, but I didn't learn a lot. That's why I've got all these books now because I now
Yeah,
have to read and I have to study. And a lot of the things that you're
yeah,
saying about business and about things that you're doing, it's in books that I've read. Like business,
yeah,
like in business mentor people have said the things that
yeah.
you are saying, and I wondered if maybe there was somewhere like or like someone has maybe
Um,
instilled it or taught you it.
mm, look, everyone has influences. I've been really lucky that I've been surrounded by a couple of people who've been, yeah, really positive people. There was a guy Graham Smith. He goes by Smudge, who worked at Scottish Rugby, who, in the coaching world, there was mega attention to detail, and he sort of instilled that in me as well in terms of like you do your due diligence, otherwise you're not doing your best, and that's like kind of that was transformative for me. But and I also so when I was setting up, I got a wee bit of advice from my godmother. She runs hospitality businesses, and she was very helpful with sort of the do's and don'ts. Um, but largely, it's I guess like you don't need mentors because all these people are out there, and nowadays, like the way that society is built, you've got access to everyone. And like you don't need to speak directly to someone to learn from them. And I think that's like this just commitment to realizing that there's so much to be taken from drawing upon other people's experiences. And I guess that like, you look at certain businesses that have done well. For example, was fascinated by Aldi because this is a mega business that has come into a tight space in the sort of like supermarket world, but their niche was, or you might know already, but to summarize, their niche is don't overcomplicate things. Don't remake the wheel. If you keep it simple, you can keep it narrow and keep it lean. Um, and I use that approach and I quote that approach all the time. You don't need 10 kinds of ketchup on the shelf in the supermarket. You only need one good one. And I say that to my guys all the time. It's like, we don't need to offer two coffees on espresso because we know that the one we're offering is shit hot. And by that, we're buying more of it so we can keep it affordable and we can keep the price down and we can rotate it sooner and it's fresher and all that sort of stuff. Um, Nobody taught me that from Aldi, but Aldi has mentored me, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, like as in people are all the way giving me advice, and that's like one of the things you probably know as well. Like when you run a business, you're always going to have people in your ear, and it's a good thing, and sometimes it's a bad thing in terms of people sitting in your cafe saying, "Oh, you should do a soup and
yeah,
sandwich deal," and you think, "Oh, cheers, Deborah. I didn't think of that after 2 years of running a cafe." Like,
yeah,
and that sounds really arrogant, but there's often this sort of like perception of, "Oh, he's young, he doesn't know what he's doing." On the other side, you have people every day, like I say, coming in with new ideas for events, new approaches, all that sort of stuff. And they put it in my ear because everyone wants to run a business and they like the excitement of doing it. So, if you're an open person, you're willing to absorb it, then it's all there and it's rich for the picking, and you just soak it up.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's flip this on its head kind of then. Let's say you could go back 2 years. What would you tell yourself? Like, what sort of thing would you mentor or teach yourself or advise you not to do?
Stop and look up. I think that's something that's come to me recently. Like even today, so for context for anyone listening, we're recording this just at the end of a day of service. I'm sat in the cafe now. I've literally just mopped the floor and hopped on the stool.
And it's 7:30.
Today,
it's 7:30 at night.
But I looked up and there was people in the cafe doing various things. One person had their shoes off and their feet up and they were sketching in the corner. The other person was sitting studying, listening to the beats. There was people quite clearly on a first date, which is icky and horrible, but like take it elsewhere. But still, it was nice, you know. But I didn't do that enough in the first year. I didn't realize that, like, I was chasing my dreams, and it's really easy when you're doing the thing you say you were going to do and doing it well, however well you want to define well. It's really hard to stop and go, I'm doing a pretty good job here and I need to soak this in or it's not worth it. The reason you want to do it is because you want to be there while it's happening. You know what I mean? And I guess so recently people keep on asking us, are you going to expand? Are you going to expand? And I've been quite vocal about, yeah, this business is going to be bigger than it currently is. I want to have 5 shops by the time I'm 30 is something that I was waxing lyrical about 2 years ago. But now it's well, I'm just taking some time to enjoy this, you know, it'll come when it comes, but I need to create some space where the business is in a healthy position. I can take a couple of days off a week. I'm not burnt out. I can sit in the cafe in the corner and enjoy it as a customer. And that feels amazing. That feels so cool. So yeah, if you're running a business, take some time to look at what you've created and take some time to be present, I guess. Because it's the best thing in the world if you do that.
I think it is quite easy to get lost in work, isn't it? Like the way I think of it almost in my head is like you're almost battling. You're in battle. And you could be fighting someone one-on-one.
Yeah.
Or you can pull yourself up on top of the hill. You can get a better perspective and you can see actually all we need to do is just move over to the left a little bit and we'll be I think that's brilliant advice. I really do. And it's maybe something that I should try and do 100%. Myself a bit more often. You are wise beyond your years, Fraser.
Well, wait until you see I don't do my own laundry, so that's a little grounding factor. My mum still washes my clothes, so maybe that's a competitive advantage I have over other people. But yeah, and also I will chip in there because I'm aware and I have reflected as well that it's not all easy, and you know I'm aware that answer paints me as this euphorical guy who sits in the corner and swoons in his cafe as it's busy and flooding out the door. It's not like that. Cafes are really hard to run, and there are some really low moments. And I get grumpy and I make mistakes and I tell people I shouldn't tell to fuck off, like the lady in the post office opposite me. You make these mistakes as you go and you go, why did I do that? What am I doing? And at times it feels painful and you're up at 11 o'clock. But as long as you take some time to do it and as long as you are aware of the need to do it, then you'll get it right more often than you'll get it wrong. Yeah, people still think I'm mental. I wake up at 4:30 in the morning to come to work. And people still think I'm mental. And they go, why are you not paying someone else to do that? And I'm like, well, it's cheaper for me to do it, you know? And that's not healthy, you know? I should prioritize getting a decent night's sleep over saving money. That's mental. So, yeah, I don't get it right all the time.
I bet everybody's thinking this, Fraser. How many coffees do you drink a day?
6. 6 is the cap. I'll cut it off at 6. But so we were at London Coffee Festival a couple of weeks ago, and just this weekend we were at Glasgow. And I think I counted it Glasgow Coffee Festival on the first day. I think I would have had like 20 single espressos. And even for me, that was like my hands were going, and I had to rationally go, right, stop, have a banana. Bananas are a good tip for that if you've had too much caffeine, by the way. There we go. Now it's a fitness podcast. I just told people to eat fruit.
There we go.
Look at that.
And drink 20 espressos. Rocket your anxiety through the roof. Wreck your sleep. We don't care. Just have a couple bananas. You'll be all right.
Yeah, exactly. But to be fair, like I do moderate it as well in the cafe. And I have off days. And when I'm not working, I'm not drinking coffee. Yeah, people ask me what I drink at home all the time. And I'm like, Ovaltine, peppermint tea. I'm trying to detox when I'm at home. So,
what's your favourite way to make and drink coffee?
Oh, good question. I think I like V60, so a cone dripper, so it's hand pour. I think that's really therapeutic, and that's basically like when I really connected with coffee. It was more about that sort of like ritual side of things. I think like a lot of coffee is nostalgia, and I like remember so vividly like waking up before the library and feeling quite anxious, feeling sick in my stomach, and taking some time to boil the kettle, set it to 96 degrees to be really nerdy, get the coffee, weigh it out, put it in the cone, spiral it round, make sure it's flowing at the right rate, and reflecting on your brew as it drips through, and then you drink it and you go, good cup of coffee, boom, ready to go. And that's like, yeah, that's really powerful to pause for a moment, I guess. So yeah, that's my favorite kind. Yeah. Not because of the taste, but more because of the method.
Yeah, it's how I start every day. It is how I start every single day. What was I going to ask you there? I had a bloody brilliant question to ask you there.
I actually should have said that my favourite one was the most profitable kind. That would have been a good idea. The best kind is X, Y, and Z. So you should come into the cafe and try it. We're doing a good deal tomorrow on it.
That's fucking funny. What was I was away, honestly, Fraser, I was away to ask you something there, and I was like, this is going to be a brilliant question. We're going to talk about this for fucking ages. What was it now?
All good. All good.
Must have been a lie. Must have been an absolute lie.
Yeah.
A couple of things that we've spoke about, like, once or twice, and it was when we were sat at the table, and I don't know how much or how in depth you're going to want to go into this. Like, you are almost like a quote unquote celebrity, let's say, on the Perth Road now. Like, you've got your own place. It's very popular. A lot of people will know you by face. Yeah. Is there any pros and cons to this? Have you felt like life's changed a little bit over the past few years, like day-to-day life?
Yeah, I guess so. Like, as in, I'll start this by saying I don't think I'm a celebrity at all, and I'm doubtful of how many people actually recognise me. Although people do I do hear people in Tesco's going, "That's that coffee guy," that's not celebrity status, but that's that coffee guy. It's a pretty high heights, but yeah, you are aware of it. You're out on a night out, and by design, I'm an extension of EH9 and its brand. Although you make concerted efforts, I've made quite an effort to step away from being centre of the brand because that's not scalable. So I need to get people used to the idea of me not being here. But yeah, you're out in the pub and people are talking about coffee and they're chiming in with you and they're giving you this idea and they're giving you that and they put your arm around you and you've had a few too many drinks and you go, yeah, but I fucking hate the customers because blah, blah, blah. And you go, oh shit, wait, I shouldn't have said that, Yeah. Obviously, I don't hate the customers.
Obviously. But, obviously not.
Obviously don't hate the customers. But no, certain things come out of your mouth or you do certain things, as you all do, and I'm a young guy and I'm still, exploring a city that I've not lived in for a long period of time. The last time I was close to Dundee, prior to moving back to set up this business, I was 17. So largely going out and going to the pubs and doing all the clubbing is a new experience to me. And it's like, I'm conscious that I can't not have those experiences just because I, by extension, have a responsibility to preserve this like image of a brand. But on like the other side as well, like it's not why I go out, but it can be really good marketing. I went to a party recently with my girlfriend, and it was with a room full of people that I didn't know. They were all she's studying to be a doctor, and chatting away to her friends in this bar, and you know, didn't think of anything of it, just being me, being my usual self, and went to work the next day, and it's the busiest day we have ever had, and the faces I was seeing were the people at these parties who were coming in to see what I was talking about, and the computer, obviously I speak passionately about it when I'm in the room, and they were coming in to see it and have a piece of it, and it was like, okay, maybe going out can be a good thing. Maybe your canvas, it's like going to an expo. It's like publicizing yourself, and it's like, yeah, that's not a healthy thing to teach yourself, though, is it? Going out is good.
It's a good enough excuse. It's a good enough excuse.
Yeah.
Right, Fraser, I know you're busy.
Yeah.
On you go, sorry, mate.
No, you go.
So I know you're busy. I know you've had a fucking very long day. I'm just going to ask, I've got 2 more questions for you, right? And the first one's probably going to lead to like quite a long conversation, so I'll try and keep it down. What are some of the wildest things that have happened in the coffee shop? Like stories that you would like, people will never believe this.
Yeah. So I'm going to leave this fairly loose because I don't know how much they'll want me to share about it. But no, it's not because someone's done something bad. But so a couple of our customers have asked me to make coffee at their wedding. It's something that we do on the side, is we'll go and pop up at their wedding. But their wedding is abroad. It's really far away, and there's coffee in the city that they're getting married in. And we've been asked to go.
Wow.
Or I've been asked to go and brew coffee at it. And when they asked me, I was like, what? Are you serious? Like, haha, good one. That's funny. That's a good joke. No, nah, we're serious. We want you to be there. So that's a nice way. Like, it grounds you and makes you realize like the connections you have with people and that they form in the space, in terms of people meet in coffee shops now. They don't necessarily meet in the pub. A lot of first dates happen at EH9, which is brutal. It's pretty brutal to be a part of sometimes.
There's nothing better than love.
It's a small space. No, love is amazing, and when it goes right, I should say that, like, as in first dates that go well are like a beautiful thing to witness, and sometimes you think, oh, they'll be quite cool together, and sometimes you think, fucking hell, he's using a fork and knife to eat his cookie, like he's ruined it.
I'm pretty sure No, I've not.
Like after you like doing prep or whatever, you come in for that like holy grail cookie, and I've seen you. It's like 4 at a time, stacked up, knife and fork.
I remember I had 2 bagels back to back once, and the girl that was serving me, she was like, "Well, you gonna have another one?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll have another one." Oh, bless her. Good man. Okay, Fraser.
Record.
I wonder what the record is. I'll try and come in and beat it. So I finished the podcast. I don't know if you've ever listened to it. You're a busy bloke. I finished the podcast with the same question to everybody. The podcast is called M.a.N, Muscles and Nonsense. I kind of want this to be a space for men and women to come. I want there to be like open and free conversations. But something that I am fascinated myself in is how to be a good man. What traits would you think make a good man?
Openness. I think that's instilled in everything I do, and it's something that, like, yeah, we spoke both briefly about it and prior to the podcast, and I won't go too much into it. But I've had several sort of moments in my life that are we're grounding in terms of like, right, if you're not an open man, then you're going to do yourself a disservice, and that's like powerful. I think about it every day, about being open, sharing honest opinions. Sometimes it gets you in trouble. Sometimes it means that you have the best experiences ever, and yeah, I think that's like be true to yourself and be open, and don't let others try and stop you if you are, following something that you truly feel is right for you. Then just bash on, do your own thing.
Mate, I love it. I genuinely love it. It's been fantastic. It's been fantastic chatting. I know when I listen to the back to this, I'm going to have a bunch of questions. So we'll have to get you back on again sometime. I know as well there'll be people screaming at me for not asking certain things about the process. But I've just genuinely enjoyed listening to someone passionate about something. And there is something that really like lights a fire in you when you speak to someone and they are passionate about something. And I don't think it's very common that you meet it either very regularly day to day. So honestly, Fraser, thank you so much for that. And if you would be willing to, we'll get you on again sometime, and we'll get a bunch of questions from
100%.
Your people.
100%, and I'll work on being more concise next time. But Tom, also, like, just before I jump off, like, I genuinely, that's the vibe I get from you when I speak to you in the cafe. So like, I know it should be going one direction with the podcast. You're the host, but like that like openness I just described, and also like that inquisitive nature, I see it in you, and I like whenever we have a conversation, I leave it feeling motivated. So keep doing that. Keep running the podcast, man. It's like amazing. I have listened to it. I listened to a few of the episodes back to back, and I actually got home and my mind was buzzing. I was, had all these ideas and was inspired by it. So keep doing it and keep listening. Everyone else.
Hey, don't. I'll start crying. I genuinely will start crying. But that honestly means the world to me. That honestly does. Right, Fraser, genuinely, it's been an absolute pleasure. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this. We'll be able to chat for like a minute and then I'll let you off. But honestly, thank you. Everybody will have absolutely loved this. And I think it's been a great insight for you. And if you've not been, go to EH9 on Perth Road. Have either their, like, what do you call it again? Is it called batch brew? Is that what it's called? Or what's it called?
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Batch brew filter coffee. Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, try it. If you've not tried it, come in and try the filter coffee. There's loads of options. And it'll change what you believe about coffee.
And we're hoping that they're going to start doing some sort of like cupping in the mornings, so you can come see them soon. Remember I asked you about that?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, cupping's coffee tasting, by the way.
Yeah. I probably should have said. Right, on that, I'm going to go. Fraser, honestly, thanks so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Cheers. Yeah.